Do you ever hear people talking about their side hustles and think, why not me? Well, what's stopping you? We worked with HubSpot to create a database of 100 side hustle ideas that you can start now. Everything from design and real estate to public speaking and wellness. There's something in there for everyone. Plus, we cover the skills you need and the investment you'll probably have to make to get started. Ready to break out of your 9 to 5? Go to HubSpot.com/THDS to download for free.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, December 4th. I'm Mark Dent, here with Rob Litterst, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. For the next few weeks, Americans will be shopping online. They will be shopping at Walmart, they will be shopping at Target, and they'll probably even be shopping at their local mall. But there are a few stores that lately Americans have been forgetting about. Dollar stores. These one-time Wall Street favorites have fallen out of favor among average customers and investors, and there are no easy answers for them to turn things around, at least not quickly. So we're going to get to that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. First off, speaking of shopping, retailers experienced a very strong start to the holiday buying season. According to CNN, U.S. consumers spent $13 billion on Cyber Monday, which was the highest amount ever and about 7% above last year. Black Friday wasn't quite as good, but sales were still up about 3% year over year, which is about equal to inflation, by the way, and that's according to MasterCard's Spending Pulse. I'll throw in just one more data point here that I found interesting. According to Square, which can track data from vendors that use its platform, the average discount that was offered over the Black Friday/Cyber Monday weekend was 19%. Did you do any shopping, Rob?
I did not, and I don't know why. I actually already regret it. A buddy of mine texted me last night and mentioned that he bought a smoker.
Ooh, always fun.
A Traeger smoker, yeah. And I've had a smoker on my kind of like wish list, should I buy list. I'm kind of worried that it's going to be one of those things that like sounds like I'm going to use it a lot when I buy it, but then actually only use it like a couple times a year. So that's kind of what's kept me off of it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what a smoker is. You know, I mean, come on. Nobody uses it every week.
It's true. That's true. That's fair. Unless you live in Texas, which you do. So you would know.
People smoke more here. Yeah.
Yeah. But he got it for like $200 off or something like that. The thing that surprises me most about this news is that the average discount was 19%. I would honestly think it was higher than that.
Yeah. Keep in mind, that's from Square, which has that data only from their clients.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, so you're not talking Walmart, for instance. But nevertheless, I still found it kind of interesting. Although I guess I do find that to be probably about what I'd expect, just because, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, the deals are never as good as you think they are. That's so the whole point of it is they only discount them a little bit, and it's probably the same that it is in July. And then they just hike it for 3 months and then bring it back down.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next story. The food production and distribution company Cargill, which is America's largest private employer, announced it was laying off 5% of its workforce, or roughly 8,000 jobs. When inflation was high and grain and beef prices were in flux over the last few years, Cargill was doing quite well. But those prices have since stabilized, which has been, pretty good for consumers, but it's been bad for Cargill, reducing the company's revenues. Okay, in news that I never thought I'd be saying, disgraced energy company Enron is back. Kind of, at least. The brand rose from the dead on the 23rd anniversary of the company's bankruptcy filing with a new website, a press release, and a promo video. But you might have started wondering what was going on when you noticed that they actually are selling merch, including like a branded puffer vest that looks, cool if you're into that sort of thing. This is actually a satirical site. It's an elaborate prank from one of the creators of the birds aren't real theory that you've maybe heard of.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of those creators purchased the Enron trademark for just $275 in 2020.
Crazy. I feel like this is just a precursor, Mark. Like there's 100% chance that FTX is going to be back in a few years.
Yeah, and it'll be sooner. We won't wait 23 years. Like I'm amazed it took this long,
Totally.
Frankly.
I know. This is really wild. It is funny that it's a satirical prank because I read this headline and that was my first thought. It's like, this absolutely has to be a prank. There's no way this is real. Enron, has had its day in the sun and its day in the darkness.
No question. I recommend everyone go to Enron.com and check it out because it is a very well done website and it's just kind of fun to read through. I also would add this. I think maybe some big time corporations, I think they should have company stores and just start selling their merch, like branded sweaters, puffer vests, whatever. There are some people who would buy that, whether as a joke or as being serious. And it seems like low-hanging fruit to make a little more money if you're, I don't know, maybe not AT&T, but, something like that.
I'm looking at this right now. It's a great website. I want to look at this company store and check out these puffer vests.
There you go. All right, let's move on to Tesla, which is always in the news. This time, it's about Elon Musk's massive pay package, which was rejected again by a judge who had previously ruled that Musk influenced Tesla's board. So this package was worth around $56 billion when it was implemented first in 2018, but it would be worth around $100 billion given current share prices. Tesla plans to appeal this decision. And finally, Pizza Hut is piloting a new design concept at its restaurant in Plano, Texas. It's going to feature a pizza-making station in the center where customers can watch their orders being made. The chain is also experimenting with a touchscreen order kiosk and heated cabinets for pickup orders. Sound like a fun pizza restaurant to you, Rob?
100%. And I used to live in Plano, and I'm pretty sure I've been to this Pizza Hut. So I can just envision it. And honestly, like for these old school brands, I feel like there are all these old fast food chains that are just kind of getting supplanted by new, healthier trends. I love this. Just do something that's kind of fun that like makes it more of a novelty experience, and maybe you'll get some more traffic. I will say, like, stuffed crust still slaps, Mark. It really does.
Oh, it absolutely does. I go to Pizza Hut, every so often still, mostly just to get stuffed crust. But I think the word you use there, experience, is exactly right. Everybody wants experiences. We're in the experience economy and have been for a while. And yet you've seen Pizza Hut has closed most of its sit-down restaurants over the last few years. And that's because no one was going. But no one was going because they felt like a thing out of the 80s, except they didn't even have the pinball machine anymore or the arcade games. So I just think that this is a really good idea to try and sort of soup up their offerings and really have this kind of futuristic new look of a pizza restaurant. And who knows, maybe it'll take off nationally.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I love the nostalgia play. I love it in my head. It doesn't mean that I actually go there and put my wallet towards it. But Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, those are echoes of my childhood, Mark. A millennial getting nostalgic over here about my favorite junk food, fast food restaurants.
Yeah, I'm a millennial who still goes to them way too often. So
that's my guy right there. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the main story. We're talking about dollar stores. A couple years ago, Dollar General and Dollar Tree were sitting pretty. Their stock prices were up and hundreds more of their stores were being added every year. By one count of our former reporter here at The Hustle, Zach Crockett, he estimated that there was a store going up every 6 hours on average.
Unbelievable.
Which is wild. But according to CNBC, both Dollar General and Dollar Tree have cut their sales forecasts for the remainder of the year. They've both fired their CEOs in the last 14 months, and their stocks are both down by more than half since early 2023. Things are trending downward, to say the least, and we're going to get to that. But first, Rob, can you give us a little bit of scale, just like about the size and power of dollar stores in the US?
Totally. And it's one of those things, like if you live in the city, maybe you see some of them in the city, but otherwise, like you see them a lot kind of on the outskirts, like in these kind of like backwood neighborhoods and stuff. And I think a lot of the folks that live there treat them as their grocery stores, right? Like their grocery store, convenience store, all bundled into one.
For better or worse, because oftentimes they're in areas where there are not supermarkets that have more fresh produce and things like that.
That's exactly right. And I mean, to put some numbers behind it, an estimated 249 million Americans now live within 5 miles of a dollar store, which is just unbelievable. I mean, that's like well above half of the country living within 5 miles of one, which makes them almost as common as McDonald's, which is just like crazy to think about considering how many McDonald's you see out there.
Right.
So there's a total of 35,000 stores that are owned by Dollar General and Dollar Tree, which are the two largest players in the space. They're also the fastest growing food retailers in the US. And that's looking at it by sheer number and by food spending. So despite this downturn, these are still just absolutely massive businesses.
Yeah. They're in a stronger position than I think most people realize. And a touch of perspective, having 35,000 stores owned by Dollar General and Dollar Tree, there are about 6,600 Walmarts and Targets combined in the US. So you're talking about 5x that number of dollar stores. But yeah, like we said, though, things are not going that well over the last year or so. What's been the problem with the dollar stores, Rob?
So I think the easiest way to explain it, Mark, is just that the economy is really weird right now.
Yeah.
Lower income households are kind of the demographic that are most likely to shop at dollar stores. And they've been most bothered by inflation. And you would think in some circumstances that would drive more people to dollar stores, right? And I think if you look at how much sales were going up at dollar stores a few years ago, it's probably because some people who are out of the typical dollar store demographic started shopping there when the economy got a little bit rocky.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In this CNBC story here by Melissa Repka, she noted that during the Great Recession of 09-10, that middle income people and upper income households, they started to go to the dollar store where they hadn't previously. But it seems like that hasn't happened though this time.
Totally. And I mean, I think that demographic is starting to shop more at places like Costco, BJ's Wholesale, Sam's Club.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of starting to snipe some of those discount shoppers. A lot of them are going to Walmart and other discount stores. So it's tough. And then you get the lower income households that we mentioned previously that would usually shop there are just cutting back on purchases altogether. So it's like looking back a few years ago when the dollar stores were really thriving, you're missing out on that kind of additional purchasing from middle class households. And then you see cutbacks from lower income households, and all of a sudden it starts to make sense why sales are dropping so much, why CEOs are getting fired, and why our pets' heads are falling off, Mark.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And another thing I think worth noting is that these stores have had a lot of issues with like security and with cleanliness. Like you were saying earlier, Rob, like sometimes they're the only store around. And so people will go there rather than, maybe drive 10, 15 miles to a grocery store with more products and more variety. And I think that the other thing with these dollar stores is that they also don't translate really well to e-commerce.
Yeah.
Walmart and Target, obviously, they would love it if people never used the internet and all they did was just shop at brick and mortar stores. But that said, they've still done a pretty good job of having an online presence. There just are not any really good reasons to shop online for dollar store goods.
Totally. I mean, the economics of online items for dollar stores is terrible because of how cheap that is and then how expensive shipping is. And
yeah, exactly.
I think Amazon is literally the only company that can make that work. And I read something earlier this year about how Amazon's starting to see a lot of household staples going through Amazon, which is kind of one of those signs that Amazon Prime and that like one day shipping is really kind of like living up to the hype and kind of changing people's buying habits. Because that's the type of stuff that like pretty much everybody, even until recently, would just run to the store for. You don't order a razor from Amazon, but that sort of stuff is happening. And I think Dollar Tree's in the crosshairs because they would be one of those stores that people would run to. And you mentioned it. I mean, their e-commerce business is challenging. You mentioned kind of like the condition of stores. There have been like live and dead rodents found in some of the warehouses and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of kind of gnarly stuff going on in some of these stores that is kind of challenging from like a brand perspective, right? So like when you're thinking about where you want to shop and you're kind of like envisioning your life, you don't picture yourself going to a place that has blocked fire exits and rats on the ground and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, one more thing I'll add here is that there has been also a pretty big backlash to dollar stores, especially in the last few years, as they've kind of gone through these ups and downs. There are communities that are trying to regulate them. There are some communities that are trying to flat out ban them just because they want to have grocery stores with greater amounts of goods instead of what you normally get at a dollar store. So there are just all kinds of challenges, but let's also remember some of those statistics we were saying earlier. These dollar stores are among the most powerful and most common retailers in the entire country. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We have a whole bunch of business and tech coverage in our newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, please go get signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we will see you tomorrow.
If you're struggling to keep up with all the latest innovations in tech and what they'll mean for your life, TED Tech has you covered. Get ahead of the curve with digestible downloads on some of the biggest ideas in technology, from AI and virtual reality to clean tech. Find TED Tech wherever you get your podcasts.